Hello students, good morning to all. In the last class we started with non-aqueous solvents, that is we were majorly focusing on ammonia. We studied the physical and chemical properties of ammonia. The last part to be discussed about ammonia is solutions in liquid ammonia. As I have already told, it is a very important property of ammonia to make solutions. This is because the dielectric constant of ammonia is low, as we have already discussed that dielectric constant of ammonia is low, so ionic compounds are comparatively less soluble in liquid ammonia in comparison to others. The compounds which are soluble in case of liquid ammonia among the ionic compounds are ammonium salts, or are the ammonium salts, that is ammonium nitrates, ammonium thiocyanates, ammonium iodides, and the ionic compounds which are not soluble are oxides, hydroxides, carbonates, phosphates, sulfates, sulfides, and fluorides. Among the halogens, the solubility decreases in the order from iodides to fluoride, that the iodides are maximum soluble and fluorides are least soluble among the halides in case of liquid ammonia as a solvent. Among the organic compounds, alcohols, ketones, esters, simple ethers, phenols, amines, nitro compounds, etc. are soluble, and the aromatic hydrocarbons are less soluble. That means the organic compounds which contains any electronegative element are mostly soluble, and the aromatic hydrocarbons which doesn't contain any electronegative element are less soluble in liquid ammonia as a solvent. Next, we are going to discuss the alkali and alkaline earth metals, solutions of alkali and alkaline earth metals in liquid ammonia. These solutions exhibits very interesting chemistry, and these solutions are very important from the point of view of your exams. You will definitely be asked some questions out of this section, that is you can be asked any question out of this section, so this is very important topic. Let's get into the details. The resulting solutions, the solutions of alkali and alkaline earth metals in liquid ammonia are blue in color and are very good conductors of electricity. These are some of the important features of such solutions, as these are blue in color, and this blue color is independent of the metal used. That is, we can use any metal to make this solution, and all solutions will be blue in color. Any metal out of alkali and alkaline earth metals can be used. This solution is independent of the color of this solution is independent of the metal used. Increase in concentration changes the color of the solution to bronze, and further metallic appearance is shown. Solutions are conducting and highly reducing in nature. These solutions can be used as very good reducing agents. Also, these solutions are paramagnetic, and the paramagnetism decreases with increase in concentration. This is how the solution of some alkali metals and alkaline earth metals can be made. We are taking the example of sodium. Here sodium is being dissolved in liquid ammonia. First it will ionize to give sodium ion and an electron. Both will get solvated by the ammonia molecules present in the solution. So after the solvation, we'll get the formation of sodium ion will get solvated with X molecules of ammonia, and electrons will get solvated with Y molecules of ammonia, and we'll get cationic solvent and ammoniated cation, ammoniated sodium cation, and ammoniated electron. This is the overall reaction where sodium in the presence of liquid ammonia first ionizes to sodium and electron and then gets solvated, and we get sodium cation solvated, sodium cation and solvated electron. The ammoniated electrons are actually responsible for the blue color of the solution. That is why the blue color is independent of the metal used, because electrons are produced by all the metals irrespective of the nature of the metal out of the alkali and alkaline earth metals. Why this blue color appears? Because these solvated electrons absorb visible light corresponding to blue color, which reflects the blue light, and we see this solution as blue in color. Also, the conductance is high due to both cations and electrons present in solution. And with increase in concentration of this solution, what happens is there is an association between the cations and electrons and conductance decreases. The strong reducing character is due to the presence of readily available electrons with the alkali and alkaline earth metals present in solution, that is present in liquid ammonia as a solvent. There are some advantages and disadvantages of liquid ammonia as a solvent which have been discussed below. The most important advantage is its dissolution of alkali metals without any chemical reaction. Here the alkali metal solution which we just discussed, there is no chemical reaction taking place. We can evaporate the liquid ammonia and we'll get back our alkali metal solid in the solid form out of this solution. This represents that we are just dissolving alkali metals into the solution. There is no chemical reaction which is taking place. Such solutions can be used as very good reducing agent, even stronger reducing agents than hydrogen. Also, tendency of solvolysis is less in liquid ammonia in comparison to water, and many synthetic applications are there associated with liquid ammonia. When we use liquid ammonia as a solvent, many synthesis can be carried out. Those syntheses can be organic or inorganic. There are some disadvantages. Most of the disadvantages are associated with the handling issue, as the melting point and boiling points are low, as liquid range is low, so we have to carry out the reaction at very low temperatures. It is not easy to handle due to the other problem. It is also hygroscopic in nature, so many handling issues are there. Apart from the handling issues, it is a very advantageous solvent which can be used. If we manage the handling issues, then it is a very good solvent. Now switching to the next solvent, switching to the next non-aqueous solvent which we are to discuss is liquid sulfur dioxide. In comparison to water and ammonia, liquid sulfur dioxide is an aprotic solvent. Aprotic, we have already discussed the types of solvents. Now you must be knowing what aprotic solvents are. It is having very low melting and boiling point similar to ammonia. It is very easy to purify. It can be purified by passing through H2SO4 and P2O5, where H2SO4 is used to remove excess SO3 and P2O5 is used to remove water traces present in liquid sulfur dioxide. It is having small dielectric constant, so it can prove to be a very good solvent for covalent compounds in comparison to ionic compounds. Structure in gaseous form is angular, where SO2, its formula is SO2, where OSO angle is 120 degree and SO bond length is 1.43 angstrom. These are the three resonating structures for SO2, and the original structure is the resonance hybrid of these three structures. First property which we are going to discuss for SO2 is solubility of different compounds. Among the inorganic compounds, iodides, thiocyanates and thiocyanates are mostly soluble, just like liquid ammonia. Also, alkali metal halides follow the order that iodides are most soluble and fluorides are least soluble. Uni-negative polyatomic anions, just like ClO4 negative, NO3 negative, the uni-negative polyatomic anions are generally more soluble in comparison to multi-negative anionic salts. Next is metals are insoluble. As we have discussed the metallic solutions in liquid ammonia, liquid sulfur dioxide doesn't exhibit any metallic solutions. Covalent compounds like the compounds formed among the non-metals, that is halogens, interhalogen compounds, oxyhalides of sulfur, etc. are soluble in SO2. Among the organic compounds, aromatic and alkenes are very soluble in comparison to saturated ones. Many compounds are soluble due to solvate formation. Liquid SO2 exhibits the solvation reaction to a great extent, so many compounds are soluble due to the formation of solvates. Many donor compounds also form solvates with liquid sulfur dioxide, as liquid sulfur dioxide acts as Lewis acid. This is the auto-ionization reaction of sulfur dioxide, where the cationic part is called as thionyl cation and anionic part is sulfite anion. First reaction which we are going to discuss is acid-base reaction. As we have already discussed that acid-base reactions are represented in the form of solvent system concept, that is based upon the auto-ionization of any solvent. If any compound, any solute when dissolved in a particular solvent, it gives us the cation characteristic, that is cationic part formed out of the auto-ionization of the solvent, then it is an acid in that solvent. It will behave as acid in that solvent, otherwise it is a base if it is giving the anionic part of that solvent. Similar to water and ammonia, neutralization reactions between the SO2 acids and SO2 bases can be there in the presence of liquid sulfur dioxide, leading to the formation of a salt and the solvent itself. Solvolytic reactions are not very common for SO2. A single reaction which is very important out of the solvolytic reactions of SO2 is the solvolysis of ammonium acetate. It is very similar to the solvolysis of ammonium acetate in water, that is hydrolysis of ammonium acetate, where with water it led to the formation of ammonium hydroxide and acetic acid. Similarly, here it is forming ammonium sulfide and thionyl acetate, which are where SO and SO3 are the cationic and anionic part formed out of the auto-ionization of liquid sulfur dioxide. This is very important reaction. Very frequently it comes in exams. It can be asked in exams. Solvolysis of some covalent halides can be accomplished in sealed tube in SO2. Solvolysis reactions are not very common. So some reactions are carried out in the sealed tubes. One of those reactions is the reaction of PCl5 with SO2, where we get the formation of POCl3 and SOCl2. So this reaction can be accomplished in sealed tube in the presence of SO2. Further are the solvation reactions. Solvation reactions are very common than solvolysis. These are the examples of different solvates formed out of solvation reaction, where these compounds are also called as sulfur dioxide of crystallization. The compounds containing sulfur dioxide of crystallization, as these are very much similar to water of crystallization present in different compounds, present in different inorganic compounds we come across when written the formula. So these are very much similar to, so these are called sulfur dioxide of crystallization, compounds containing sulfur dioxide of crystallization. The examples are sodium iodide .4H2O, rubidium iodide .4SO2, KBr .4SO2. So these are some examples. Next category is a precipitation reactions. A large number of reactions can be carried out due to selective solubility of SO2 for different compounds. Here precipitation of various compounds can be carried out. Here two precipitation reactions have been represented which have been carried out in liquid sulfur dioxide as solvent, where precipitation of SbI3 and PbSO4 has been achieved, as this downward pointing arrow is suggesting that these two species are getting precipitated in the respective reactions. Further, the precipitation reactions can also be used for the preparation of thionyl derivatives, as this is a precipitation reaction where AgCl is getting precipitated, but here we are much more interested in the generation of thionyl derivative which is formed here. So these reactions are useful for the generation of thionyl derivatives via the precipitation reactions. Next are the complex formation reactions. Due to the formation of soluble complexes, solubility of I2 in liquid SO2 can be greatly increased. As we have already discussed that iodine, or we can say halides, interhalogen compounds, etc. are very much soluble in case of liquid sulfur dioxide, but solubility can further be improved by making complexes with Ki. With Ki, I2 leads to the formation of Ki3 in liquid SO2, which are highly soluble. Similarly, rubidium iodide or RbI3 is formed, which is highly soluble in comparison to I2. Here is one more example for complex formation reaction where AlCl3 is reacting with a SO2 base, that is potassium sulfite, leading to the formation of an insoluble compound, that is aluminium sulfite. This, when treated with excess of SO2 base, leads to the formation of a soluble complex of potassium and aluminium sulfite, and this is a very good example of complex formation reaction. Next are the organic reactions. Many organic reactions can be carried out due to the solubility of organic compounds and inert nature of liquid sulfur dioxide. By inert nature, what we mean is liquid sulfur dioxide just acts as a solvent. It doesn't itself react with organic compounds. So it acts as an inert solvent for many organic compounds. Sulfonation reaction of different organic compounds via using SO3 and chlorosulfuric acid as sulfonating agent can be carried out. Here we have carried out the sulfonation of C6H6 it can be carried out with SO3 and ClSO3H, which is chlorosulfuric acid in liquid sulfur dioxide, leading to the formation of sulfonated product of benzene. Also, Friedel-Crafts acylation or alkylation can also be carried out in the presence of AlCl3. Here, both alkylation and acylation have been represented and we get the desired products in liquid sulfur dioxide. Also, liquid sulfur dioxide can act as a solvent for the substitution of bromine into different organic compounds and also for the addition reactions of bromine into different organic compounds. Here, addition reaction has been represented for styrene in the presence of liquid sulfur dioxide as solvent, and substitution reaction has been represented for phenol. Next category is the redox reactions. Gaseous SO2 can be used as both oxidizing and reducing agent, but liquid sulfur dioxide is just a medium. It doesn't react with the different compounds at all. It is just acting as a solvent. Further, liberation based upon the redox reaction category, liberation of I2 can be achieved out of these two reactions. These are the examples of redox reactions. Next, we will be discussing some important features of SO2 as solvent, that why it is still, despite the different disadvantages which we discussed, it is still used as solvent for many important reactions. This is because it is low boiling, so can be separated by evaporation very easily. Its melting point is low, so reactions which can be carried out, the solutes which are stable at low temperature, can be carried out in the presence of liquid sulfur dioxide. This is an inert solvent, which is a very advantageous thing, that it doesn't itself react with different solutes for carrying out different reactions. Solvating power is very high for both covalent and ionic compounds, so solvation products are very common in the presence of SO2 as solvent. It can also be used as diluent for superacids such as HSO3F and SBF5. This decreases the viscosity of this superacid without affecting the acidity. This is a very important property of liquid sulfur dioxide, that it can be used as diluent for superacids without affecting its acidic strength. So this is all about our chapter of its non-aqueous solvents. Next, I have already given you the assignment. Here I have written many important reactions which are very important from the point of view of the exams, and I have given you some assignment to be solved at home. If you find any difficulty with these questions, you can always ask me. With this, I declare the completion of your syllabus. All the very best to you. Thank you so much.